Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandhana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandhana Na Brajajanarandhana Jamunatiravanachathi Jamunatiravanachathi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandhana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandhana Jamuna Tiravanachadi Jamunatiravanachathi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Ashtatarasita Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Pimanandi. I've seen your photograph many times. Now I'm seeing you in person. There's a person behind the photograph. Welcome. Welcome to Kishore Kishori Mandir. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll chant together text 16, and there's a whole series before that without purport. We'll cover them also. Otastvya vyabhicharena Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tushta mana gurum. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tushtat mana gurum. O tushtat yavicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tushta mana gurum. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nato tishta mana gurum. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tishtu manam. Ladies. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tushta mana gurum. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nato tishta mana gurum. Otastadvya vicharena. Kanyela namasa bhavat. Tam vilokya manu praha. Nati tishta mana gurum. Hotohu of the priest. Tat of the yagya. Vyabhicharena by that transgression. Kanya, a daughter. Ila, Nama, by the name. Sa, that daughter. Bhavat, was born. Tam, unto her. Vilokya, seeing. Manoho, mano. Praha, said. Na, not. Atotishtamana, very much satisfied. Gurum, unto his guru. So I'm going to go back before I read this translation for 16, and we'll cover the verses prior that have no purport, starting with 9. O King Parikshit, from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was generated a lotus flower, a golden lotus, on which the four-faced Lord Brahma took his birth. Text 10. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi took his birth, and from the semen of Marichi, Kashyapa appeared from the womb of the daughter of Daksha Maharaj. From Kashyapa, by the womb of Aditi, Vivasvan took birth. Texts 11 and 12. O king, best of the Bharata dynasty, from Vivasvan, by the womb of Sangya, Shraddha Deva Manu was born. Shraddha Deva Manu, having conquered his senses, begot 10 sons in the womb of his wife Shraddha. The names of these sons were, there's 10, Ikshvaku, Nriga, Sharyati, Dishta, Drishta, Karushaka, Narishyanti, Prishadra, Nabhaga, and Kavi. So we spoke a little bit yesterday. Ikshvaku, the eldest son of Vivaswan, ruled in Ayodhya, built by Vivaswan. Excuse me, built by Vaivasvatamanu. So here we go. Text 13. Manu at first had no sons, therefore, in order to get a son for him, the great saint Vashishta, who was very powerful in spiritual knowledge, performed a sacrifice to satisfy the demigods Mitra and Varuna. Interesting. We'll come back to Mitra and Varuna shortly. Text 14. During that sacrifice, Shraddha, Manu's wife, who was observing the vow of subsisting only by drinking milk, approached the priest, offering the sacrifice, offered obeisances to him, and begged for a daughter. Text 15. Told by the chief priest, now offer oblations. The person in charge of oblations took clarified butter to offer. He then remembered the request of Manu's wife and performed the sacrifice while chanting the word Vashat. The word for word says Vashat Karam, the mantra beginning with the word Vashat. Vashat is the beginning word of a longer mantra, so he started the mantra with the intention, we discussed this yesterday, the intention that a daughter should be born. So sure enough, text 16, Manu had begun that sacrifice for the sake of getting a son, but because the priest was diverted by the request of Manu's wife, a daughter named Ila was born. Upon seeing the daughter, Manu was not very satisfied. Thus he spoke to his guru Vashishta as follows. Report. Because Manu had no issue, he was pleased at the birth of the child, even though a daughter, and gave her the name Ila. Later, however, he was not very satisfied to see the daughter instead of a son. Because he had no issue, he was certainly very glad at the birth of Ila, but his pleasure was temporary. Now I'd like to read the next, let's see if we get to it time-wise. The next purport is very wonderful. Speaks about chanting Hare Krishna and the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here, this is largely Puranic history. We spent a fair amount of time yesterday discussing what's the relevance of all of this. And the relevance of all of this is to see the connection of all things with the source of all things. So on the one hand, there's Big Bang, on the other hand, there's Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu's expansion, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So the previous canto, just reminding ourselves, the previous canto we finished the other day, Canto 8, ended with King Satyavrata hearing the Vedas directly from Lord Matsya, and then in Satyavrata in his next life became Vaivasvata Manu. So that's where this canto begins, Vaivasvata Manu. The question at the beginning of Canto 9 is, "Oh, great Shukadeva Goswami, please describe more about Vaivasvata Manu and the lineages of kings issuing from Vaivasvata Manu, and the dynasty of Vivaswan, the Sun dynasty." So that's a big portion of Canto 9. And then the Moon dynasty, we heard that there was this canto describes the combination of the Sun dynasty, Moon dynasty. We discussed that already yesterday, in relation to Ila, and Ila becoming Sujumna, and Sujumna becoming a woman, and then becoming half 1 month woman, 1 month man, and all of that very interesting subject. But as a woman, Sujumna married Buddha, spelled differently than Lord Buddha, from the Moon dynasty, and that's how the two combined. We're just getting a picture of how everything comes from Krishna. So in the chapter summary, Prabhupada states that at the beginning, a little summary of things that are said in earlier cantos, Canto 2, Canto 3, in detail, Canto 3, is now in a very summary way being presented. So here we go. Garbhodakshay Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's expansion, second expansion, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, from his navel comes a golden lotus, and atop of the golden lotus comes Lord Brahma. And in the third canto, we hear the many things, but after becoming perfectly enlightened, what his duty is and who he is and everything, by performing his tapa, he then begins the process of creation, and after creating the universe, he wants to fill it up with living entities. And so sequentially, first is the 4 Kumaras. They say, no, we don't want to do that. He becomes angry, Lord Shiva appears, and the very next in the sequence of Canto 3 is 10 great sages appear. Now, one of those 10 great sages, that's the whole third canto isn't retold. It just says that from the mind of Lord Brahma came Marichi. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi took birth, and then from the semen of Marichi, Kashyapa appeared from the womb of the daughter of Daksha Maharaj. So, for those of you that are a little newer and not so familiar with all of this, without the assistance of a wife, Brahma has the capacity, because he's Lord Brahma, to produce living entities. So the 4 Kumaras, of course, Lord Shiva just manifests from his brow, and then these 10 personalities, 10 great sages. The function of these 10 great sages is to assist Lord Brahma in filling up the universe with good praja. So these are 10 men, and then there's actually number 11. So right after Rudra, or Lord Shiva, appears, comes these 10 for the extensions of generations. I'm reading from Canto 3, Chapter 12. Here's the 10. Marichi is the first listed. Here's the other 9. Atri, Angira, Pulascha, Pulaha, Kratu, Brighu, Vishishta. We heard Vishishta mentioned being approached by Vaivasvata Manu to assist him. So, Vashishta, Daksha, we've heard a lot about Daksha. And then the 10th son is Narada. So Narada is the exception. Narada doesn't become married. Narada is sannyasi and brahmachari, or without female companionship. And he has another function. He's the rishi amongst these other 9. So I'll read them again. Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brighu, Vashishta, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narada. We hear, this is Canto 3, Chapter 12. We hear further in Canto 6 about, we hear Canto 4, Daksha loses his head, literally, and gives up his life because this Daksha, I call it Daksha Part 1, offended Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, his elder brother, because Lord Shiva is the direct son of Brahma, and another 10 sons, Daksha being one of them, very proud of his capacity for performing yajnas, is Daksha. Without all the detail, it's a long section of the Bhagavatam. Daksha offended Lord Shiva, big time, and he lost his head. His head was chopped by Virabhadra. His head was replaced with a goat's head at the request of the assembly there. So through the mouth of his goat's head, Daksha apologized, begged forgiveness. Lord Shiva gave his forgiveness. So the sin, or the reaction to the sin, was taken by Lord Shiva's forgiveness. But tendency for sin may remain even if sin is forgiven. So moving over to the 6th canto, we find out that Daksha died of shame. Imagine walking around with a goat's head, and previously he was very beautiful. So he died of shame. And then he came again, Daksha came again, Daksha Part 2. And he still had the propensity to produce generations, and he had offensive mentality. So Canto 6 describes his 10,000 sons and 1,000 sons, Haryashvas and Savalashvas, and Narada examining them, Narada accepting them as qualified to become brahmachari, Daksha being very disturbed by that twice, Daksha cursing Narada for acting according to Daksha's perception and conclusion, acting against the codes of a renunciate. He shouldn't do this. So I curse you. You can't stay anywhere. You have to keep traveling. And then following that in Canto 6, Daksha, through the same wife, long description of this very special qualified wife, there were 60 daughters. So there's 10,000 sons, 1,000 sons, and he moved over to daughters. And then those 60 daughters were then distributed to different personalities. Now there's listen carefully, there's a apparent discrepancy because in the distribution of Daksha's daughters, it says that 17 of those 60 daughters were given to Kashyapa. Now, in the verse that we just read, it says, Marichi, through the womb of a daughter of Daksha, Kashyapa was born. So I'll read from the sixth canto, just so we're clear about it. Canto 6, Chapter 6, Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, at the request of Lord Brahma, Prajapati Daksha begot 60 daughters in the womb of his wife Akshini. All the daughters were very affectionate toward their father. He gave 10 daughters in charity to Yamaraj. 13 daughters to Kashyapa, 27 to the moon god, 2 each to Angira, Krishashva, and Bhuta. The 4 other daughters were given to Kashyapa, thus Kashyapa had 17. No mention of daughters of Daksha being given to Marichi. So what about that? Well, different kalpas is the way to understand something like that, at least quite possibly. A different cycle of yugas, different day of Brahma, and so forth. And Shukadeva Goswami said at the beginning of this narration that the detail is too much to tell. It would take hundreds of years. So I'll only give essences. So, no problem. This description in Canto 6, this description in Canto 9 don't seem to match. But different kalpas, different cycles of the 4 yugas, or different days of Brahma, etc. No problem. That's how such a message can be discerned. There's several examples. One of those several examples is spoken by Jiva Goswami in relation to 2 different Lord Varahas, Shweta, white Varaha, and Rakta, or red Varaha, and they're of different yuga cycles. And Jiva Goswami says that Shukadeva Goswami merges the 2. He doesn't make a distinction, this one, that one. He just blends the 2 stories, no problem. Or we just finished in Canto 8 hearing about Matsya. And we heard no elaboration, but there's 2 Matsyas, Matsya 1 and Matsya 2. And no distinction between Matsya 1 and Matsya 2. At least in that section of the Bhagavatam. Maybe elsewhere some different description. Likely elsewhere there's different description. But different yuga cycles is the point. I'm bringing this up not to disturb your minds, but to relieve your minds. Because if you read carefully, sometimes we don't read carefully, but if you read carefully, you'll see, wait a minute, it says this in Canto 6 and says that in Canto 9, what's going on? And so what's going on is different yuga cycles. And Shukadeva Goswami doesn't always make a differentiation and say, oh, this is this yuga cycle and that's that yuga cycle. So don't get confused. He doesn't do that. So as a reader, we need to recognize that sometimes what's going on. Prabhupada explains that the Lord and his devotees perform activities that are in principle essentially the same, because the bhava, the mood of love between the devotee and the Lord, is essentially the same. But then there's variety. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. Another example of this, because I've been spending some time with Ramayana and Prabhupada's comments about Ramayana, there's different Ramayanas. There's Valmiki Ramayana, which depicts things a certain way. And there are other Ramayanas, even in this 9th canto. At the very, very beginning, Shukadeva Goswami says, I'm only going to refer to those versions of Ramayana that are authentic, meaning even at that time there were versions that weren't. And there was more than one version. And I'll give a little practical example. In Valmiki Ramayana, there's no mention of when Ramchandra comes with Sita in the Vimana of Kuvera, the Pushpaka Vimana. There's no mention in Valmiki Ramayana of stopping at the place where Lord Ram, having killed a Brahmana, is worshipping Lord Shiva, propitiating Lord Shiva for release of the sin of having killed the Brahmana, Ravana, because Ravana was born in a Brahmana family. No mention of that pastime at all in Valmiki Ramayana. Yet, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did his tour of South India, that's one of the places he went. So Lord Chaitanya was honoring something that's not even mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, but it's something Lord Chaitanya was honoring. So there isn't any elaboration why or on what authority, scriptural authority, was Lord Chaitanya doing that. He was doing that. It's just one of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes that he was honoring, although it's not in Valmiki Ramayana. And there's other examples. So I'm mentioning this not to create confusion, but as you become a little more accustomed to studying Scripture, and you see, wait a minute, over here it says this, and over there it says that. How do you, don't get spun out. There's practical explanations, at least potential practical explanations, one of them being different pastimes of Lord Ramachandra in different yugas, different Treta yugas. And so there are different renderings. As one possible, why does this one say this and that one says that? Or different Matsyas, or different Varahas, or different descriptions of how the universe unfolds, and through the daughters of, in this case, the daughters of Daksha, or one of the daughters of Daksha, married Marichi, and Kashyapa was born from that combination. Or in the sixth canto it says something else. Or at least doesn't say that. This, of the 60 daughters, no mention of Marichi being given one of Daksha's daughters for marriage and Kashyapa being born. Okay? That's how you handle, hey, wait a minute, apparent discrepancy. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next verse. From the mind of Brahma, Marichi took birth, and from the semen of Marichi, Kashyap appeared from the womb of the daughter of Daksha Maharaj. From Kashyapa, by the womb of Aditi, Vivaswan took birth. Now that's described in Canto 6, in that chapter 6 in detail. It goes like this. Of the 60 daughters of Daksha, 13 and then another 4, total of 17 daughters of Daksha were given to Kashyapa, and that there was a purpose. That purpose was to fill the universe with good praja. So one of those 17 daughters of Daksha was Aditi. And then, of course, Diti and Aditi. There are two of the 17 daughters. And there's others who are wives of Kashyapa. So mentioned here is from Kashyapa by the womb of Aditi, Vivaswan was born. Now, Vivaswan was the eldest of 10 sons. And those 10 sons many of them make up devas, or demigods, Kashyapa and Aditi, Aditi being the mother of a number of demigods, Indra being one of them. So here's the list. The eldest brother, Vivaswan. We'll come back to Canto 9 in a moment. Vivaswan, Aryama. Does that name Aryama mean anything to you? Aryama is the one who filled the post of Yamaraj when Yamaraj was cursed. Aryama, one of the sons of Aditi and Kashyapa. Pusha, Twashta becomes a really important personality in the 6th canto, one of the sons of Kashyapa and Aditi. Twashta was a Brahmana. His son was Vishwarup. Vishwarup was the one that was killed by Daksha. Indra. Twashta, Savita, Bhaga, Data, Vidhata, Varuna, Mitra, Shatru, and Urukrama. Now, Mitra and Varuna are mentioned in our 9th canto Bhagavatam. These are the two that Vashishta approached to have a son for Manu. Yeah. Now Vashishta is elder. He's elder to all these people. He's one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma. But he performed the sacrifice propitiating these personalities. And the last is Urukrama, that's Vamana Dev. Vamana appeared as the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. So now we'll go back to the 9th canto. Isn't it nice, like cross-referencing here? Hope you're not confused yet. From Kashyapa, same sentence, by the womb of Aditi, Vivaswan took birth. That's text 10. 11 and 12. O king, best of the Bharata dynasty, from Vivaswan, by the womb of Sangya, Shraddha Deva Manu, that's Vivaswata Manu, his son. Shraddha Deva Manu was born. Now that's described in the 6th canto also. In fact, there's more detail. This is Puranic time. So Sangya was given in marriage to Vivaswan. When she came before Vivaswan to accept Vivaswan as her husband, he was so bright. You know, standing before the sun god, she squinted her eyes. It was difficult to bear seeing him. So he accepted her as wife, but he cursed her and saying, your son will be the Lord of Death, Yamaraj. And she said something like, no, there was no offense. It's just like, you're so luminous. What to do? Please forgive me. Please make an arrangement so my only son will not be the Lord of Death. He said, all right, you'll have twins, Yama and Yami. And Yami is Yamuna. those who take bath in Yamuna would not have to face Yamaraj, your other son. So they were twins, Yama and Yami, Yamaraj and Jamuna. Those are two of Sangya and Vivaswan. And then another is Vivasvata Manu, or Shraddha Manu. So we're hearing from Canto 8 into Canto 9 about the questions, the lineage from Vivasvata Manu. So Shraddha Manu, having conquered his senses, begot 10 sons in the womb of his wife, Shraddha. The names of these sons we read. It starts with Ikshvaku and 9 more. But before those 10 sons were born, there were no sons. There was no children, period. And so Vivasvata Manu approached Vashishta. Help. And so he made an arrangement where 2 demigods, Mitra and Varuna, were propitiated in a Vedic sacrifice. We mentioned Mitra and Varuna. Mitra and Varuna were sons of Kashyapa and Aditi. So they were approached by Vashishta to assist Manu in having children. So they were propitiated during the sacrifice, and while the sacrifice was going on or being prepared, the wife, Shraddha, paid her obeisances to the priest and mentioned to the priest, I'd like a daughter. So when he's offering oblations into the fire, the sankalpa, or the intention, is there should be a daughter, and so sure enough there was a daughter, per the intention of the qualified brahmana's sacrifice. And then, so the mention, that brings us to text 16. He was, on the one hand, satisfied or pleased that he had some children or a child, but his duty as a king and his desire as a king was to have a successor, to have sons, or a son. So we hear that he approached Vashishta, please help. There was supposed to be a son. He spoke to his guru, Vashishta, as follows. Now, the next verse has a long purport. I'll just read the verse and let somebody else discuss the verse and purport tomorrow. My Lord, this is 16 ends, he approached Vashishta and spoke as follows. My Lord, all of you, that Vashishta had a team of priests, all of you are expert in chanting the Vedic mantras. How then has the result been opposite of the one desired? This is a matter for lamentation. There should not have been such a reversal of the results of Vedic mantras. So we don't do those Vedic mantras like they used to, in part because people aren't qualified in this age of Kali. Plus, it's not the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali anyways, for that reason and other reasons. We chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and other Vedic mantras, or Vaishnava mantras in particular, rather than propitiating devas and trying to get this and that and the other thing. Going back to the 6th canto, actually it wasn't a mistake, it was just his wife, Shraddha, said something to the priest, and the priest paid, his attention was going to what the wife said and not what Manu wanted. And so the result was as it was supposed to be, according to her intention, not according to his intention. rituals, Vedic rituals are, they're, there's all kinds of rules, all kinds of things that the age of Kali, even if there was a qualified priest, um, like there was in previous ages, there's all kinds of things that have to be just exactly right. And if it's not just exactly right, there's no effect or the opposite. Like the sixth canto example is Twashta. We heard Twashta was one of the sons of Kashyapa and Aditi, and Twashta was offended when his son Vishrupa was killed by Indra, and so he performed a Vedic yagya to get a child, a son, that would kill Indra. Indra having killed his son, the ritual or the sacrifice was for that purpose. But he made a little mistake. He made a one-syllable mistake. And so he got an opposite result. Instead of saying Indra Chatroho, he said Indra Chatro. So instead of having a son that would kill Indra, he got a son that would be killed by Indra. One syllable. One syllable. So in discussing this, supposing there's Vedic rituals for becoming wealthy or something. So, or you want a good husband for your daughter. You just get one syllable wrong. You get a bad husband for your daughter, or you have financial disaster. Just get one syllable wrong. Or any other thing. And anything that's not done precisely. I remember the yagya that was performed for the installation of Krishna Balaram. Very wisely, Srila Prabhupada wanted the local Goswamis to take full responsibility for the installation of Krishna Balaram so that they couldn't complain later it wasn't done properly, because they did it themselves. It's very wise. He had them do it. And Padmanabha Goswami was involved, and his father was also involved, like the head priest overseeing the whole thing. So I remember that the watching from the sideline, just even setting up the arena. I mean, it took half a day just to how high off the ground and which way is north and which color flag goes on the north side and on the south side, the east side, the west side, and like any little detail that's not right. The paraphernalia has to be perfect. The mantras have to be perfect. If they make a mistake, the referee says you have to go back and do the mantras again because it has to be perfect. It was interesting. And Brahmanas don't always agree. That's an understatement. Commonly, Brahmanis will disagree. And they're doing yagya together. But in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Lord Chaitanya teaches there's no niyamas. There's no hard and fast rules. Whereas with Vedic sacrifice, there's hard and fast rules. If you don't get it right, you don't get the result, or you get the opposite result. If you don't match all the rules. Therefore, this purport for tomorrow's verse is going to describe the merit of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There's no rules. And it's to qualify us to receive yet another mantra, Gayatri mantras, where there are rules. And one has to be this and that and the other thing for the effectiveness, but it's to help qualify the unqualified in this age of Kali. It's a very merciful, most merciful benediction during this age of Kali to be able to approach Krishna, although unqualified, and become purified by that chanting. Hare Krishna. So for newer devotees, all this Puranic lore, probably confusing, but I hope you got the essence. You may find, to repeat, you may find some discrepancy. Over here it says this, and over there it says that. What's going on? One possible answer is different yuga cycles described over here, and another one described over there, without making that differentiation within the text or the purport. Any discussion?
Romapada Swami, if you gave the example of a narration of Sukadeva Goswami connecting two stories. So I was just wanting to ask, since you were emphasizing that different kalpas explain a discrepancy, or what appears to be a discrepancy, or something, some omission, then does it mean that Sukadeva Goswami, in speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, his vision is extending across all the different kalpas or several kalpas in order to be able to bridge those gaps in that way, or connect things in that way?
Subal, help me.
Oh dear, sorry, Srimad Swami. Sorry.
He's got the big picture. And is that your question? He knows. And in some cases he expresses, in some cases, in most cases, anyway, in some cases he does, in some cases he doesn't express. This is this and that's that. He's just narrating because for his own reasons, but the essence is what he's presenting, although detail is certainly very important. He's got the big picture. Is that your question? Yeah.
Two questions, Marj. You mentioned that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is to qualify one for chanting Gayatri.
In our tradition, in our ISKCON practice, yeah. We don't right away get, but everyone is eligible for chanting Hare Krishna.
But our emphasis on self-realization comes from Maha Mantra, or
both. Why separate? The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is sufficient, is one answer for self-realization. If that's the case, why have Gayatri Mantra? Well, Hare Krishna Mantra is sufficient. Because, put in really simple language, the Gayatri Mantras help us in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mantra. The Hare Krishna Mantra makes us eligible to properly chant the Gayatri Mantras, to give us the facility, the privilege of worshipping deity, which is part of the process. Bhagavad Dharma is connected also with the Pancharatrika system. So, and Pancharatrika system has mantras. One assists the other and vice versa.
my other question in regards to Gayatri, you mentioned there are rules and regulation. Yes. I was just trying to understand when Prabhupada gave Gayatri Mantra, how strict he was. Sometimes I've heard rules like, or I've read rather strict rules about chanting Gayatri that, if one is sleeping during the Sandhya, then he should repeat it 1,000 times.
He didn't give us those strict rules. So, having not been given those strict rules, someone may follow, someone may not follow, and they're not punished if they don't follow. They're not given by our acharya to follow. Someone follows, that's nice. Someone doesn't follow, perhaps because they don't even know them, but not given by the guru, then it's not required. Nice. It's not essential. You want to add something?
Thank you, Maharaj, for this well-researched and very technically correlated class. Regarding the point of sometimes some pastimes being respected by our tradition despite they not being there in the original text, I wonder what criteria can we use for discerning which are to be considered authorized and which
What's
not.
the idea? Say it again?
What criteria can we use
What criteria? Okay.
for discerning which we can consider authorized and which we can't? Because even the famous Vraja pastime of the gopis giving the dust of their feet to Krishna, it so beautifully illustrates the mood of the gopis' selfless love. But at the same time, that is not found in any of our Gaudiya literatures or any scriptures. So,
I'm not, I got about 50% of your question.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So, my hearing is bad.
Should I?
It's just like you had a hard time hearing
Yeah.
Krishna Archana. I'm having a hard time hearing both of you.
Okay. Sorry.
Diction is a little different, so speak slowly and clearly, and consider me half deaf.
Okay. Sorry, Maharaj. I tend to speak fast.
Okay.
So, there are pastimes which
They're
even our tradition has accepted, but they're not found in the scripture. You
They're
give
not found within the scriptures,
in the original
but they're
scriptures.
generally accepted.
Yeah. You give an example in the Ramayana.
Yeah.
There's also the famous example of the pastime of Narad Muni asking the dust of the feet of the gopis.
Well, what the criterion, my understanding of criterion is, if given to us if verified by our acharyas, we accept. If not verified by our acharyas, we're cautious, or just leave it out. When in doubt, leave it out.
Okay.
So, in Vrindavan, for example, there's all kinds of conventional stories. And certain speakers, I won't mention names of certain speakers, they like, without discriminating, they just like to tell the stories that are conventional Vijvasi stories. And others are more discriminating. And so you're asking criterion. I'm on the conservative side. That which comes from our acharyas, just take for example the pearl pastime. That's from Raghunath Das Goswami. That's not in the Bhagavatam, but it's Raghunath Das Goswami. It's good. It's as good as scripture.
Yes, Maharaj. Especially with respect to the Ramayana, our tradition has not really commented much on it. So to parse which pastimes to accept, which to not, it becomes difficult with respect to Ramayana.
Well, again, when your question specifically is what criterion do we use? I gave the example of Lord Ram worshipping Lord Shiva.
I
It's
agree.
not in Valmiki Ramayana, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there and celebrated. That's good enough. Doesn't give like a detail of what he said there and did there, but he went there and honored that pastime.
Okay.
Good enough. And otherwise, we can say, with what criterion. This is not authenticated by our acharyas, but it's a common understanding that people say such and such.
Okay.
Like, here's another, for example. I went with Shankadari from South India, and the South India tour. We went to a number of places that I'd never been before, but he had been many, many times. And there are some narrations that are popular amongst the Sri Vaishnavas. I never heard them before. But they're accepted by the Sri Vaishnavas, so I just spoke and say, with the qualification, this is an understanding of what took place in this location based upon the Sri Vaishnavas.
Okay.
And with a qualified, it's not from our disciplic line, nor is it, to my knowledge, anywhere in Scripture. Like, some songs by the Alvars, and their glorifications of, the Divya Deshams and how, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the first of the Alvars, and the deities came themselves because he was unable to travel, so they came themselves. Now he narrated that, saying, this is an understanding amongst the Sri Vaishnavas. And he has a number of songs glorifying, and the Sri Vaishnavas accept because they're direct glorifications of the deities that he didn't get to go to see, but they came to see him. Just qualify it like that.
Okay.
Nam Alvar and his wonderful glorifications of the forms of the deities that he never saw. The others are composed at the place by Alvars, etc.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
It's delicate. What we want to avoid is sounds nice, but there's no descending knowledge authenticity. So we want to I'm conservative in this regard. I want to be careful, because otherwise, it's a nice story that doesn't have that same spiritual potency, and it opens the door for all kinds of other things. So, descending knowledge, please. And from our acharyas, like that, and other authentic lines of disciplic succession. That's the criterion that I use, anyway. Huh?
In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there is also mention of Shastra Pramana and Loka Pramana.
Yes.
But there is no really very delimiting marker given for telling what all will come in Loka Pramana. So,
Well, you know, it's in simile, Shruti Smriti Puranadi, that verse. So with making statements without reference, Utpataya eva kalpate.
Okay.
It's a disturbance. So we don't want to make a disturbance. We're careful.
yes, Maharaj.
And the Loka Praman, well, it's like Krishna asking Nanda Maharaj, this yajna that you're doing, is it enjoined in the Vedas or is it family tradition? Now it doesn't mean something's a family tradition, trash it. But you make a distinction between family tradition. There's value in family tradition, especially in Vedic times. But something must be done because it's enjoined in the Vedas, and something should be done because it's family tradition.
There's a difference.
And today, there's like all kinds of family tradition that people do ritualistically without even knowing what it is or why it is. And then they run into Krishna consciousness and say, well, wait a minute, you know, my family tradition was such and such. So we have to be careful in addressing people's family tradition thing and not just trash it. It's not a zero. But it has to stand, you know, below, that's what's enjoined in the Vedas. It's delicate. And it has a lot to do with the faith of the individual and so forth. It's very delicate for those who are presenters of truth, of you know, Shastra Praman. You have to be very careful with faith of the individuals. Now, some persons, they don't care. They just get a baseball bat and slam. I don't think that's nice. Anyway, that's me.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's very
Yes.
beautiful answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
The question was such of answer because it's a little similar, but then to the question of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. But I was thinking on the influence of Tulsi Ramayan, even in the text, some of the texts that we use that have been provided in ISKCON. There's several books that explains about Lord Ram's pastimes. You've been studying it, and then we know Srila Prabhupada has said that, you don't go there.
Well, he said different things. There are quotes that Prabhupada said, don't go there. And there's other quotes. I could, recently viewed them because I've been preparing for visiting Ayodhya. And one of them, so, you need the big picture, like this question Krishnarjuna was asking. You need the big picture. And so Prabhupada was asked about Tulsi Ramayan, and he said, it's actually not Ramayan, it's Ramcharita Manas. And then he said, but it's the glorification of Lord Ram's pastimes, and therefore it is another Ramayana. And, you know, it was from the heart of a Ram Bhakta describing pastimes. So he didn't trash it or stay away from that. He didn't say that. And, you know, I don't know the circumstance. Maybe it was somebody whose faith was very strong in Tulsi Ramayana, and so he didn't smash it. I don't know the circumstance, but he didn't stay away. Just made this distinction. It's not Valmiki Ramayana is Ramayana, and then included as Ramayana because it's glorification of Ram, and we think glorification of Ram is Ramayana. That's what Ramayana is. So,
Yeah.
like for example, you know, when building the bridge, some versions say squirrel, some versions say spider. So, whether it's a squirrel or a spider, different versions, it's the principle.
Thank you.
And we make distinctions when we speak. There's different versions of Ramayana. Some say this, some say that. Here's the pastime. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I think my question is, I have a difficult time, I guess, due to my unsteady mind and like uncontrolled mind to retain the amount.
Uncontrolled mind?
Yeah.
Who's that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
You're not going to tell me who it is.
because
Okay.
I find it difficult to retain the amount of information that I'm hearing that I desire to. So I'm just curious, how can I be more absorbed and kind of retain more and just like remember more of what I'm hearing in Bhagavatam class?
So you want to know how to get there? That's what your is a question?
Yeah.
Or you're just like complaining?
No, how can I remember and absorb more?
Two things, simply. One is regular hearing. And then the second thing is through regular hearing, purification, and then in purification, then better remembrance. One of the characteristics of intelligence is good memory, because intelligence guides the mind. But, you know, both the mind and the intelligence are clouded by lust. So, strong memory is assisted by brahmacharya. Strong memory is assisted by brahmacharya. So if you want to become stronger in remembering, then become stronger in intelligence and become stronger in brahmacharya.
Thank you.
And you know, the background where we're coming from is not brahmacharya. The background where we're coming from, you know, us Western, you know, unfortunate souls, is not brahmacharya. And you know, and the world is becoming less and less and less. But when that's there, then sharp memory. And sharp memory is assisted by a keen intelligence. Then you can understand clearly this from that, and it sticks. Both strong intelligence and strong memory go well together. Sense control, mind control. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.